Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. Yes, I have a stupid grin on my face, but we actually, yesterday was a year since we started Word Blindness. And I remember we recorded in May, but one of the episodes was about how crazy my anxiety is right before school starts. And it's so stupid. It's so annoying and it's so frustrating, which I know is not a way to heal having those feelings. But it's like, okay, my dyslexic kid's in college. I already started a little anxiety earlier. And now we are with the other two starting next week. And I still have it. And it frustrates and angers me, which is not helping me get through it, which I know, and it's really annoying. And I know we're going to talk about guilt today, but I just had to start with that.
So I think majority of the United States of America isn't back in school. And I think most is, except New York. Yeah, I know a lot of kids that are going back to school today, and Canada goes back. So we've got basically probably, let's say, over 3/4 of kids back in school, college is back and up and running. But by this time next week, we will have all the kids back in school. And we can talk about your anxiety again.
We can. And I actually would be very curious, though, if people that didn't struggle in school have the same anxiety, and I don't think so. I think people that maybe had different experiences have different emotions around it. But it is like, it's almost like the amount of stuff, which I really don't even have, like, it's crazy. And I hurt my back, hurt my hip, like basically like everything that I do to kind of like decompress in the brain is like not happening, and which makes it even worse. But I just know, because we've talked about this before, and I actually would love to go back and find that episode that it was where I needed to stop moving because I needed to sit and deal. I don't remember what was around that, but something.
Well, and,
probably an IEP meeting.
Yeah, it's funny how messages are passed to you 100%. You're supposed to sit in it. You're supposed to feel it. And fuck, does it suck? And the question you asked.
Oh, it sucks. It sucks.
Most people, if I remember back, kids were excited to go to school because, they see their friends and they see this because they didn't struggle.
Yeah.
Hey, how many kids wanted to go back to school shopping and get the new 100 box of crayons or pencil crayons to you Americans with your duotangs, and because it was a fun place. It was they succeeded at things. There was good classes there, good bad classes. For us, for me, there was no good classes. You guys even laughed when you saw my marks for my phys ed, my gym, because they sucked because I had to write tests.
I don't know if we laughed, but yes. Right. We questioned. We said, wait, what? Yeah.
You sure didn't expect 70s, I can tell you that.
No. And it's interesting because I really thought a lot of my anxiety, because I could feel my kid's anxiety going back into school. And I need to talk with my other two. They don't love school. I mean, even my daughter, who's good in school, she's like, I mean, really? Who really loves school? Like, it's kind of, there's, things boring. She likes to learn things, but I wouldn't say that she's like, woo, I can't wait to go back. So I do want to kind of talk to the kids. I mean, they've been working so much, like Truman's had doubles like crazy. So I haven't even connected with them on like how they're feeling going back. Like Montgomery's not going to be in high school. Is it weird for Truman? Like all of these different things that he actually might be like, what? No, I haven't thought about any of that because I think about everything. And as my daughter said today, which I thought was really cute, she's like, well, you're an empath. You feel everyone. And I do. It's exhausting.
Yes, you're an empath. You feel everyone, but you're feeling more your traumas than feeling them.
I know. I thought, though, it was because I could feel it. Shut up. And I hate that word. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say shut up to you.
But, well, it's better than the usual fuck you say when we're on the phone when I'm right, So we'll go G-rated, we'll go, G to R-rated, but it's, you've had so much brought up, again, like you said, happy anniversary, for a year of doing this. You've gone through a lot, went through a lot of, ups and downs, but this is, obviously we talk about the foundation being why we do, but this is why, because the traumas that come out of this, right? Here you are, 50 years old, still living your traumas back from school. And we talk about traumas and we talk about school, and
so annoying.
It is annoying. And that's why we do what we do. And we talk about this. And that's why we talk about it honestly and rawly is a word that I get a lot. Is I never want a kid to feel the way I do. That was literally why I started the foundation. So if we can get this information out to people, and you being honest and how you feeling and how I'm feeling, because we're not the only ones. All dyslexics. I had a call with, a dyslexic the other day. Last night. He's like, I hate school. Yep. We all do.
Yes. And you know what? It is really the thing that's kind of the irony of it. And I don't know if I'm using that even correctly, but like I've done a lot of work. And the fact, but it's the deepness of my traumas when it comes to school, which sometimes even surprise me, right? I'm like, God, I talk about this all the time, but the fact that it is so deep. And again, we, the episode that went out about college and, my kind of college situation, obviously that is something that is a new feeling, even though I've always had it, but so it's the layers, as you say, the layers of the onion. There's so many of them. And that's also exhausting. It's exhausting, but it is what it is. You got to acknowledge, you got to talk about it. You can't stuff it. And I wasn't really stuffing it. Like I didn't realize I was stuffing it. Right. And I think a lot of people go through that where they don't realize they were stuffing it. Because they just are, moving. Except I've gotten in a good spot where yoga is like my, whatever. It's all fucking annoying.
That's why the old stuff-a-thon, you don't even understand it's a stuff-a-thon we talk about. And just a lot of times like addictions, working out. We don't even understand what that onion is yet. Like, so you have done a lot of work, but it took you, let's say, 25 years to get here. So essentially you haven't done very much work, if that makes sense, compared to how long it took you to get to here. So it's, it took, I'm just using, 25 years to get here. So we're only in a year of peeling back that onion to heal. And I get this all the time. And, I tried this once, it didn't work. Okay. Right. I wish it worked that good. I wish it was like Amazon. You could take a picture and it's going to be here in 2 hours. But this is mental health. Nobody ever looks at it the opposite way. How long did it take to get here? When was our first trauma? When we grabbed that first book. So, when we were 2 years old or 3 years old. So now at our age, 40, 42, 45, 50, 60, 80, 30 years, whatever that is, whoever is speaking, you have to take a reference point. It doesn't happen overnight. You didn't get here overnight. It's not going to heal overnight. So you've done amazing work, but there's still more to go. And how many things happened when you're taking Montgomery to school with your other two? Right, to show you, you had other kids here. You can't be just looking this way or that way. You've got two other kids to raise now too, and they need their focus too.
Wait, first of all, I think your internet was very unstable, so I could see your smile and you're moving around. So I know you were saying something really good, but I don't know that I heard or comprehended all of it in one thing. I'm hoping that it actually picked up the audio. You were basically saying, because my other two. Right. I have other two that are going to school still, that don't struggle in school as much, whatever. Yes. It is all very interesting. And it is very interesting thinking about the journey of it all, which kind of we can go back to the guilt and the reason why we wanted to talk about guilt is because there's so many parents that reach out to us that say, oh my God, I feel like crap that I missed this. Or how did the school miss this? I have such guilt that my kid's been struggling for this long and I didn't know. Or they felt like they waited too long. Or when they get diagnosed, they have the guilt of, again, that they didn't pick up on it, that they didn't see. And it is this really awful feeling. I've been there. I probably am going, whatever. We're not going to get into that part, but there might be like other things that are coming out in our family with some dyslexia that maybe I'll be like, oh, sorry, dude, I missed it. I can't believe I missed it. But it is one of these things that I have gotten way better at the guilt thing because I can talk to people about it, because we all do the best that we can. And there's times where things are missed because our kids know how to get around things. Our kids know how to kind of make the accommodations for themselves where they don't even realize that they're making these accommodations for themselves. It's kind of like how they learn and how they get through it. So they just do it. So they don't know any different. So that's one of the things that I tell parents a lot is until they know something different, yes, you're going to have emotions about it. But a lot of times your kids, they're struggling in school. They feel like crap 100%, but they don't realize that there's another way to feel until they sometimes get the accommodations and are like, okay, now I feel like, oh my God, I got this. But I wouldn't say that they have anger to the parent or until, later in life, they might like, why didn't you get this? But I'm kind of going on a tangent here and I know you have something to say, but we can't beat ourselves up as parents.
Hi.
Are you laughing at me? I can hardly say.
Yes, I am laughing at you. Wait, let's be, no kid has anger to their parents saying, why didn't you catch this? And as a parent,
totally,
you can't catch something you don't know. So
yep.
If you don't know what something is, just, if a baseball is being thrown at you and you're not watching, you're not going to catch it. Same reference to dyslexia. Like, so just like I could be mad at my parents. Why didn't they still don't even know what it is. How are you supposed to? So the guilt that we're putting on ourselves as parents is not realistic, is not normal, is not good, because you didn't know what it was. For 99% of the people. Now, there's going to be times that we may be getting into with yourself is that it was overshadowed by something else. That again, that's going to happen a lot. And then that's going to be a next segment because we know where this is going, don't we? Don't we? You know where this is going, don't we?
Well, and I do want to. You're a child. I love it. One of the things that is important, I think, that is to say, and because I know people are like, are they talking in code? What are they talking about? In families, sometimes, and I'm going to take it back to my family growing up. My older sister struggled, dyslexic, dysgraphic. You guys have heard this. I wasn't diagnosed until later in life. My dad wasn't diagnosed until later in life, even though we all kind of had this understanding. My younger sister looks back now and will say, like, I wasn't as sucky as the two of you, so I didn't get that help because my mom, was really, okay, I'm helping these two. So like families that have a lot of kids and there's a lot of struggle and there's levels of struggle, but sometimes it's not caught because it's not as severe as one of the other siblings. That happens all the time. That happens all the time because it's like if a teacher doesn't catch it or the kid doesn't say, hey, I'm struggling, and they're making pretty good grades, it's like, okay, they're good because I know how much this other person struggled. So like that's kind of in my family how, and my younger sister, who's still not diagnosed, but I've said to her, I think that you're definitely, dyscalculia and ADHD. I mean, not ADHD, dyslexic. And she'll be like, there's like things that she'll do that I'm like, right. And so she's going to have her own journey of thinking about that. But she also knows she's got 4 kids and each one has had different struggles and it's been caught at different times. That's also because her school has knowledge. If you're moving around and your kids are going to different schools, there's not going to be that same, kind of, the teachers have had each one of your kids. And so there's so many things that go into it, but that's where we can't beat ourselves up, because again, we did the best that we could. We got the tools that we were given because of other experiences, but it doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. It doesn't mean that you missed something with your one child because you weren't as attentive. It doesn't mean that you don't love that child as much as you love every other child. It just means they weren't struggling as much as some of the other ones. And it was like, you're good? Okay, I'm good. I don't need to dig because you're making it.
Well,
oh wait, you're struggling.
And some of it, doesn't come out till later in school, right? So if they're not as severe dyslexic or the 4Ds, if they're on a shorter spectrum of that, that might not come out till later. So school gets a little bit harder, right? So you're just in a flow. You're dealing with the severely dex one. And they're getting by, they're memorizing, they're doing whatever. And school's, not so hard as the other one, right? So now you're trying to compare the two. So a lot of it does come out later on. For example, look at yourself. It did come out later when you manage. We're so good at finding ways around things that we get around things without people even knowing until it gets really hard. Right? Till we get faced to certain things that we don't know how to get around or we can't get around. And that's a lot of times that is later in school, meaning later in college or later in high school when things get stepped up, when you go from I'm more of a 1+1 kind of guy. And now you add letters, which is bullshit. There should be no letters in math. It should be just straight, right? Things got a little bit harder and they're like, oh, there might be a little something going on here, but you could make it through different ways. So it's just a part of your journey. We always talk about everything's supposed to happen for a reason. There's no just white unicorn like you like to ride every day and feel good about your unicorn. Life isn't easy, but the more we beat ourselves up with it, the worse we're going to be.
Totally. And I think one of the things, advice that we can give to parents is like, if they're like, well, I have this guilt, how do I work? Just because we're telling you, don't feel guilty. We're logical people. That's not going to help. But hearing shared experiences sometimes helps. The other thing is talking to your kid, right? Like, hey, I have this emotion. I'm feeling real shit that I missed this, or I feel guilty that I didn't realize that you were struggling. And just acknowledging, I will say 99.9% your kid's going to go, oh my gosh, it's not your fault. And they're not even thinking that. So that is one step that I do always tell parents, just have a conversation with your kid. Let them know how you're feeling. Let them know you're feeling guilty because you feel like you missed something. And have the conversation where you guys can both kind of have this open dialect, because again, a lot of times the kid's going to be like, oh, I didn't realize you were even feeling this. I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I'm okay. I'm not blaming you. I'm glad that we are now at a different point. I'm either getting help or kind of figuring this out. And as Brent, as you said, a lot of times, if you look at the studies, that's why a lot of kids don't get diagnosed in school younger unless they're severe. And there's so many that get diagnosed, and even some of the severe ones don't, especially if there's no knowledge in the school district. However, a lot of times when you hit that 10th grade, 11th, 12th grade, and then college, when things do get harder, is when dyslexia, the 4Ds. So we're going to dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and ADHD kind of rear their heads, and you're like, what the fuck? Like I was getting by because I knew how to get by, but now it's not just black and white. As education is, college, as you get older, there's like classes that you can take because you're like, oh, wait, okay, this is still hard. It's really fun. It's really fun, this thing called life.
It's really fun to watch you just sit there and dig and just see through this, and your journey's been amazing. It's been amazing over the year, and you're not done with this journey. And that's, again, the reason why we connected, right? So that you can live this experience through, other people can live it through you and understand and see it, and hopefully use what we say and what our experiences are to catch things so they don't get to the point of where we are, right? You weren't diagnosed till college. So you're 20. I was 32. The earlier we can find this out, and we're not the only ones, and people listening, you're not the only ones. There's a massive, obviously talking about 20% of it. So we're not alone. You're not alone in this journey. You're not the only one that's going through it. You're not the only one that's having this anxiety. There's millions and millions of others. So like the old phrase for the foundation, you're not alone. If you need to talk about it, reach out to us. We'll happy to do it, because that's literally what we do all day long through this, through each other, through kids. So it's always great to talk about. You have to talk about it. But no, you're not the only one talking about it, because you're at school talking about it and people don't understand you. Some of your friends, or majority of your friends, probably don't understand you because their kids aren't. So,
like, why are you anxious? Why do you have anxiety? I'm like, what the fuck?
No, it's no big deal. Come on.
School.
I used to say electric chair for 8 hours sitting there. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, it is. And there's so many different, because we talk about, like, I never was like, no, I don't want to go to school. Like, I enjoyed the social part. I loved the social part. I loved the sports part. And so there's going to be times where you also maybe hear from someone that you don't realize that they didn't like school, because they seemed like they liked it, because they just were like, well, I got to crack on, right? I got to go. Sports? So why am I going to make a big deal about it?
Were your sports in high school? Like, was it for the high school team, like your field hockey?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was club, because
yes,
in Canada where I grew up, there was no such thing.
They didn't have clubs back in. So there was no. We didn't have clubs until after I probably graduated, is like when that started to become where you play in high school and at clubs. No, so that's why our high school was so dynamic and so good and had such a pool of, layers. Like, you could have been the best in the state and been like a junior, but you weren't getting playing time in field hockey and lacrosse. Like, you were sniffing the field because there were seniors that were, just as good as you. So it ran deep. There was like a couple kids every once in a while, my sister being one of them, that would get brought up to like varsity when they were young, like we had freshmen. So we had a 9th grade team, a JV team, and a varsity team.
Yeah. So that's,
and they
that's
all were incredible.
So, and then where I was going with that is, so you had that sports aspect at school. I never had that.
Yeah. So that's why you didn't have that. Oh, that sucks even more. I didn't realize that.
No, in Canada, we don't have high school.
So you literally didn't. Yeah. Right. Because it's a June, right? Because which is so interesting. Yeah. And we had literally right after school, you went, and our practices were like 3.5 hours. Like, it wasn't like you had an hour and thing. And I had my homeroom teacher, I'm not going to say his name, but he was a science teacher that I didn't have, used to fuck with me, used to steal my field hockey stick and hide it so that I would have to run. And my coach, because he said I talked too much in his class and in his homeroom, and he used to not like it because I had like 3 friends in there. And so he would hide it. And then I would be late and my coaches would be so pissed. So I would always have to do extra laps, and I'd be like, they stole my stick. And they're like, well, why? And so it became this whole thing where actually my mom had to come in, and they were like, okay, we're moving your homeroom. I'm like, I'm not moving my homeroom. My friends are in here. He needs to stop taking my stick. And my mom was like, okay, so here's the thing. You're the adult. She's not acting right either, but you're an adult. So like, let's stop. Like, that was probably like my junior year. Yeah. So yes, I had friends, and I loved that aspect of school, but there was, as we talked about, there was constant anxiety all the time because I didn't know what I was doing and who was going to call me out on it. Right? Like, who was going to?
At least you had something there. At least you had that portion. That's why I asked, because I never had that portion of school. to go there and have the teacher steal my hockey stick. I would have slashed him with it. But so I never had 1 second of fun in school because I never had that. At least you were able to bring that to school, where you had the confidence of, okay, I got lacrosse, I got field hockey, and I've got my friends, and I didn't have the friends, and I sure didn't
any
have
of that
sports. I had nothing, so that's why I despise it. Again, another reason of why.
Yeah.
Parents can miss certain things with kids because of what, your experience and how different mine was.
Right. And even in middle school. So our middle school was 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And we had sports. We had middle school teams. So there was none in elementary, obviously. Like we played rec, right? And we played town. And field hockey and lacrosse weren't even, you didn't even play those. So you played soccer and we swam. And then in middle school is when field hockey and lacrosse were then brought in. And we were one of the earlier districts to have it, because usually people just started it in high school. So we had it in that middle school. And I want to say it didn't start 5th grade. Maybe it was like 6th, 7th, and 8th, or 7th and 8th. But then there was a separate team there. And then, and this is one of the things that I think is really important and why we also talk about this all the time. So I was known as a really good athlete. So I had something that was good. Like people could physically see me in gym, but not only in gym, but on the field hockey and lacrosse field. And then I ran track too I swam for a while and then ran track in the winter. But so kids, my peers knew that I was good because they literally witnessed it. So it was like, that's where, again, when I talk about my good feels, is because I was known, right? I would win awards and it would be over the loudspeakers. So even though I wasn't getting awards for school, that's where I was being acknowledged because I had those sports. So you didn't even have your peers, like people could say, oh, he's good at hockey because they heard it, but they never really get to see you be good at hockey. And so they weren't able, and then you were having tests in gym class, which that's ridiculous. Jesus. I think ours was just all like, I would, there was a period of time where you hated it because if you had it in the middle of the day and you got all sweaty, then you were like, oh, this sucks. But you didn't even get that to be able to have anyone kind of see you and acknowledge you as good. And I remember talking to Montgomery about this at one time. And I said to him, honey, but you excel on the sports field. And it was at a school where he's like, but not everyone does it. No one can see that. It doesn't matter. So his was a little different too. It wasn't as embedded in our community as it was when I was growing up. It was really embedded. People talked, the little town shopkeepers, oh, you're on the field hockey and lacrosse. It was a big deal.
So that's that confidence, the self-esteem you got, but that's where it was able to get lost and not caught because it was covered up. So just another example of how how this journey can lay out. And I went to a school. It was kindergarten to grade 8. There was no such thing as middle school. I came to the U.S. and I had kids. I'm like,
right.
What's a middle school? What do you mean middle school? I was kindergarten to grade 8. It's like we're all on the same, sharing lunch tables. Yeah. We didn't even have the lunchroom. We had to eat lunch in the classroom if you brought your paper bag lunch, and kick you outside. And there's and minus 50. You're outside. Make sure you get your hat on because it's going to be cold. There was no staying inside. So that's just another conversation for another week. But it's just an example of how different experiences can be and how it can be disguised and hidden through these things.
Yeah, it really can. It really can.
And I know we could go on all day long.
I want to leave it there because I do. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just want to say, I know we could talk this all day long and your anxiety, so, pop that pin and you just go, psh, calm down. It's all going to be okay.
It is. That's the thing. It always is, right? It always is, but it sucks. Why don't we talk really quickly about the golf event and the dinner, because this will go out afterwards. So there's not going to be any more free tickets, but people can still purchase tickets to the Stanley Cup dinner in October. Why don't you talk on that for just a minute?
Yeah. October 18th in Chicago. we've been grateful enough to partner up with the NHL Charity Foundation. They've allowed us to have the Stanley Cup. So we're going to have, it's October 18th, which is a Friday night. The Stanley Cup will be in town. So back in Chicago, first time in, I think, in 9 years. So a pretty special event, because Stanley Cup just doesn't arrive, in places out of nowhere. Out of the four major sports, it's the only trophy that's been around for over 100 years. The other sports make a new one every year. So obviously the Stanley Cup is special. You're able to get pictures with it. Full dinner, cocktail party, night out away from the kids, auction items. There'll be some speeches with some dyslexic kids, hearing from us, but you'll be able to hear from kids themselves that how the foundation's helping them. And it's going to be a fun event. I know you'll be there, and hopefully Dan, and maybe, some of your other family members that you're trying to drag along to Chicago for a pre-Halloween adventure.
Yes. Yeah. So you guys can go to the sopelfoundation.org for all of that information, and we'll be talking about it, up until, but we also have the golf event, which is sold out, which is going to be fun. And that's in September, where we're going to be picking the winners of the, who are getting the 2 tickets to the Stanley Cup dinner. So stay tuned for all of that. And we appreciate you guys tuning in for another episode of Dyslexia. No, that's not it at all. Word blindness, dyslexia exposed.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I need this.
Just leave it alone. Say goodbye. Over. Peace out, everybody. Be good till next week.
Well, rate, review, and share. Bye.